I think my website, when I worked with the language on my website and kind of let myself just talk directly to my ideal clients, it started to just draw more of those people in. So I think a lot of it has been that, clients kind of self-select when they find my website. I imagine it turns a lot of people off and, but the right ones call.
This is Therapist Clubhouse, a podcast for private practice entrepreneurs. I'm Annie Schusler. This week, I'm talking to Devona Snook, a private practice entrepreneur in San Francisco. Listen as we talk about how she's learned from difficult times in her business and how she runs things according to her superpowers and her preferred rhythms. Welcome, Devona. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So we're going to talk about your business and your journey as a business person, as a business owner. And so let's get started with how long have you been a therapist in private practice?
So I started a private practice internship about 12 years ago and then have been licensed for about 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And who do you now see in your practice? What would you say your right fit clients are like right now?
Well, I have quite a range. I would say I seem to draw a lot of creative types and artists. I work with a lot of therapists. And I work with people on relational wounding, healing relational wounding, relational patterns. And I think that probably the main thread is I see a lot of clients who are really interested in therapy. They tend to be pretty psychologically minded and really wanting to kind of take a deep dive.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So people who have some experience with therapy already?
Yeah, a large number of them do. Yeah.
So I'm just thinking that puts you in a little bit of a different position with marketing because, for most therapists, they make the mistake of getting a little bit too far into talking about the therapy itself in their marketing because that's usually not what people want to hear about as much as like, do you understand me? Can you help me? And who are you?
Mm-hmm.
Getting a sense of the therapist. But so it sounds like for your people, they actually do want to hear a little bit more from you, probably about how you think about therapy.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's true. And I think in terms of marketing materials and my website, I can use a little bit more, I can tend towards a little bit more psychological language without having to worry because I think that's, my ideal clients are responding to that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting. And how did you come to this sort of person? Like, was this always the case in private practice or has this happened over time?
Gosh, I think I just noticed over time that those were the clients that I worked best with and who seemed to get the most transformation out of the work. And that I just really enjoyed being able to kind of dive in deeply with clients kind of, from the get-go. Mm-hmm. And so over time, I think it just... my website, when I worked with the language on my website and kind of let myself just talk directly to my ideal clients, it started to just draw more of those people in. So I think a lot of it has been that, clients kind of self-select when they find my website. Mm-hmm. I imagine it turns a lot of people off and, but the right ones call.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think of that as anti-marketing, which is really just as important as marketing. Yeah, that we're willing to repel the people who aren't really going to help us do our best work, and that we're not going to be able to help quite as much. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it meant being willing to refer out a lot of people who I didn't feel like I, could probably help as much or wouldn't be as much of an enriching journey for us. Yeah.
And so when you have to do that, when it's time to do that, how do you know and how do you do your referral out?
Well, it can really vary, but I think I generally know pretty early on, pretty much, with the first phone call usually. And So if I'm not sure, I'll probably mention that in the phone consult, that I'm not really sure that I'm going to be the best therapist, but we can have a session or a few sessions, and it's like a trial period, and let's see how it goes. But usually I refer people out just in that first consult. I kind of listen to what's going on in their life and what they're wanting to work on. And I just try and pay attention also to just letting myself slow down enough in that first call where I can really pay attention to what are the flags that are coming up for me. What's my gut telling me? What do I know that I just right off the bat I don't work well with? And I can just be really upfront about that. So I just sort of take in a lot of that information, and then just try and be really honest about, it doesn't seem like I'm going to be the best place for you to do your work. So I'd love to find some people who would be good fits. And then I do the work of finding good referrals. If that person is interested in referrals, I try and find some potential really good fits for them.
Yeah, so you're really stepping completely out of scarcity in that conversation, and you're being completely present with yourself and with the client of what's happening here. You're slowing down and paying attention. And I think that's such a huge skill to be able to do that instead of thinking, all right, how can I, convince this person to come in? You're really doing the opposite.
Yeah, it's been definitely, something that I've had to practice. It wasn't easy initially, for sure, but I just had to notice, what's happening in my practice. And I really want to feel good about going to work, and I want to feel like the clients that I'm working with have the best opportunity to have the transformation that they're wanting to. And then I think that is like the best marketing. So it's something that grew over time. It certainly wasn't easy at first to just refer people out like that. Yeah.
What do you think helped you get over that hump of being able to do it?
Well, I think reminding myself that I got into this business because I wanted to do work that I love. And if I make any decision that starts to turn it into like a job, like a job, that's a sign for me that I'm kind of going off course, because I, like most of us, went through a lot to get here. So, we make a lot of sacrifices. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of energy. It's a huge investment. And I don't want to then change this, work that I love into something that doesn't nourish me and fulfill me and, help me feel like I'm doing something good in the world.
Yeah. So you're holding on to that vision and you've got it really clear.
Yeah, I think it's, like I said, it's something I have to come back to. There are definitely moments where I think, I could work with this person. I could probably be helpful. I would love to fill that time. But my experience is that just does not work out the way that I really want it to feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what are the ways that you get support in your vision and holding on to your vision? Like, I know that you, and we can edit this part out if you want to, but I know that you're in a business consult group with some peers, and you're also in the alumni community with me and my program. And like, what do you do to get support and to, stay on vision?
Well, those things definitely help. I also have 2 consultants that I work with that I have consultation. It really varies, but maybe once a month or so. And one of those is primarily clinical, and the other is kind of like everything. So it just holds everything. And so that's a time where I can check in with myself and get some reflection. So that's important. And then just on my own, I try and check in from time to time with my vision and my goals and see, where am I at in the process? Does anything need to change? Have I changed? So I used to try and schedule that, to do that quarterly, but I would never hold myself to that. So now I just try and do it from time to time.
Uh-huh.
So I just have a document that I open up that has, some various questions to ask myself about, where am I going? Is this still what I'm wanting? How is this working?
I love that. We have a lot in common because we both showed up on this call early, which is not what most people do. And I have a document like that too. And I have it on my to-do list. I use I use Asana, so it shows up every week for me to look at what I call my visionary questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't do it every Monday, but I get a chance to decide whether I'm going to do it every Monday. And, one of the questions I ask myself is, what will you wish that you had started 6 months from now?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I want to remember to write that down.
Yeah. And it's really helpful. I've got a Google Doc where I answer that question from time to time, but then I also look back at what did I say 6 months ago?
Mm-hmm.
And have I done those things? So it's like a nice time capsule as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. I'm going to steal it.
Yeah, do it. Do it. You also offer consultation yourself and supervision. How is that fitting into your business and into your life at this point?
Yeah. Well, so the consultation is newer as of the last couple of years. I've been offering it, and supervision I've been doing longer. And it's a small part of my practice, but it's something that I really enjoy. I really enjoy the mentoring process, but it is just a few hours generally of my schedule a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it gives me a different, something different to do, different part of my brain to use also.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also supervision is so helpful in making you really think about and articulate what is it that we're doing and why are we doing it? Just asking those deep questions.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a wonderful thing, even for people early on in their practice building to actually do, there are a number of schools where you can supervise trainees, and it really does help consolidate your knowledge and just help you recognize how much you actually have learned over the years. So I really, if anybody is kind of interested in mentoring or supervising in that way, encouraged to just kind of give it a shot and see how it feels. And feels so good too, to be able to give back to the student community that I came from.
That is such a great idea. And then so you're doing supervision within your practice, or are you doing it, do you have an intern in your practice, or is it
I don't.
different than that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I supervise now with a couple of, I think they call them like private practice incubator organizations now in the city and in the East Bay, and just have a contract, with a few of the interns there, and they come to my office.
That's great. That seems like a really nice low risk way of doing it as well. Like low administrative and low risk. Yeah.
Yeah, at times I would love to have a private practice intern, but with, what I'm trying to focus on in my business, I just haven't had that energy to devote to that. So it does work well for me to, work with other organizations.
And it seems like, Devona, you have found your sweet spot to be individual work, whether it's with clients or in supervision or consultation. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do a little bit of couples work that I really enjoy, but primarily I do individual therapy with adults. And that's kind of the bulk of my practice and I guess the clients who find me.
Yeah. Do you feel like that kind of work brings out your superpowers the most?
I think so. Yeah. I really do love doing couples work, but I love having more hours in my day where it's more about really kind of creating a space where people can get really deep into themselves and their inner world and their psyche, and, work through processing emotions, trauma, and patterns. That's what I really love to do most.
And how many sessions do you like to have in a week, typically?
I have a range. My ideal is 22, but I range from, I feel pretty good with like 20 to 23 sessions. I have a lot of like former clients who come in infrequently now. So it varies each week. The number of people that I see kind of can change a lot.
Have you found any tricks to keeping your life balanced with your between your business and outside of business life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to keep my business life contained because it can easily kind of flow into the rest of my week if I'm not really making it clear. So, and the way that I do that, I think, changes over time depending on my needs. So there was a long period of time where I think I knew that Sundays I wouldn't do any work at all. I generally don't work very much on the weekends in terms of administrative work, but just knowing that I wouldn't do anything or even visioning work or anything on Sundays. So I do stuff like that. I have a pretty set schedule where there are just certain hours that I see clients and I don't go outside of those hours. That helps a lot. I've kind of done that from the beginning and found that I really need that. I really need to know when I'm going to be off each week so I can just plan my life around it. Yeah, lately I've been doing something that I love, which is every month or so, I take a week off of non-clinical work.
Oh,
which
interesting.
Has been really awesome.
Interesting. So how does that work? Like, what are the things that get, off of your list that week?
The things that get off of my list are more like business development sort of things. Any kind of planning, visioning, marketing. So I don't have a lot of administrative work that I need to do for my practice, but I'll keep up with that. But the bigger to-do list just gets put on hold.
That's great.
I mean, I might hang out with a colleague, if I have something planned, but I don't need to be working on thinking of, is there a service that I'm wanting to create? And I've been, brainstorming about that. I don't really need to think about that. I don't need to think about updating a page on my website. It's just,
You're just a therapist that week.
Just a therapist that week.
That's a cool idea. What are some of your favorite ways to take care of yourself?
Oh, let's see. Well, gosh, I'm really good at having downtime. So that's a pretty easy way. I try and have like one morning a week that is sort of like a self-care morning. I have a couple of long clinical days, and usually the morning, the next day I have a light day. And that morning is just, I'll just try and have a really slow, spacious morning. I try and get out for hikes. Sometimes getting out in the outdoors is really, really nourishing for me. And just spending time with family, friends.
Great.
Yeah.
And what are you charging right now?
I'm charging $160 for a 50-minute session. And when I do see couples, I see them for 75 minutes, and that's a prorated amount of $240.
And how are you feeling about your fee?
I'm feeling good about it. Yeah, I made some major changes to my fee structure a number of years ago, and where I increased my fee by an amount that felt uncomfortable because it was really time, and then decided to just raise my fee $5 every year just to keep up with, living expenses and increase. And I'm finding that really works for me to have a system like that.
Good. And so you kind of systematized something so that it wouldn't happen again, like where you ended up having to raise it a lot. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I didn't have to think about it. I mean, I think I get a little bit of decision fatigue with having a business. There are so many decisions that we could make, all the time. And so having a system like that takes me out of that whole process of like looking around and figuring out what are other people charging, what should I be charging? Should I be charging something different? That just put a stop to that, need to that process. And that's been feeling really helpful. that I can just fall back on this structure that I set that I made, taking as much into account as I could, and I can just kind of trust that for now.
Mm-hmm.
And that might change in the future.
Yeah, but it's like a grounded decision that you can keep returning to.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a low moment or a scary moment in your business?
Sure. Yeah. Let's see. I probably, the moment where I became most disillusioned was when I had been full for a while and I had a big drop in my practice. So I had a number of people ended and moved all at once. And because I had been full, I hadn't kept up with my referral streams.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wasn't getting as many referrals. And that was hard because I had worked hard for so many years to get to a place of being full and to feel, and then I felt like I had to kind of start over in a way. Was kind of tiring for a while.
I like how your brain works though, that you're saying like, well, here's why it happened. I wasn't keeping up with my referral streams. So just kind of like how you have systematized your fee, it makes me think you've got, you learn from times when things don't go the way you want them to, and then you put something into place so that it can be different. I think it's hard sometimes for business owners to do that because it can feel like, oh no, I'm a failure. My practice is full, and it's hard.
I definitely felt that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
for sure. But it was a huge learning period for me. And just like you said, that's what I had to do, was I just had to learn from it. And I did learn that even when you're full, you do need to keep up some marketing, which, people had told me and seems obvious, but I wasn't really doing that.
Yeah.
So, and to take advantage of those times, like the other benefit in that was it gave me time and space to see if I wanted to change anything about my practice and to make some shifts with how my practice was fitting in with the rest of my life and how I was looking at things. So yes, there was an initial period for sure of, am I a failure? Am I not good at this? Am I not going to make it? Why am I different than other therapists out there? But then, really moved to a different place of realizing that this is just the nature of being in business. And these moments can be huge opportunities too, if we take advantage of them.
Yeah. Yeah. There's such good times to decide, like, is there a different service I want? Is there a different schedule I want? Is there a way that I want to adjust my niche? And it gives you the time and the opportunity to change it.
Yes, because you can change it when you're busy, but it is, I think, harder. It's so much harder.
Yeah.
It really means carving out that space. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think I did change my schedule at that time I have never worked very many evening hours, but I did cut out a lot of evening work at that time and went to a mostly daytime schedule. I worked maybe 1.5 evenings. And I think that happened around then.
And I know there's an idea out there that daytime appointments are much harder to fill. What's your experience been?
Well, they were harder to fill. And I did refer out a lot of people who wanted evening times, and that was really hard. But I stuck to it, and it just took a little bit longer to fill up again. So it was okay. And I think it doesn't have to take long, if you are doing more marketing. I'm kind of like, I think, a medium amount marketing person. There was much more than I could have done. So if you do the marketing to get, more referrals, then it's not going to take as long. But my experience was that it took a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you kind of have to hold out.
Yeah, you have to hold out.
Yeah, have to hold the long view.
Say no to some opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it to fill other people's practices. You get to send referrals to other people, which feels really good.
Yeah, and you're building goodwill as well when you do that. Yeah. Yeah, you're really good at finding your sweet spot in these different ways of saying, like, this is the amount of marketing I want to do. And like, there might be pros and cons to it, but this is the right amount for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to get myself to do things I don't want to do.
Yeah. So in the Gretchen Rubin assessment, I think that means you're a rebel, right?
I think I have some of that.
Yeah.
And some of something else, but I can't remember that. But that would make sense.
It feels to me, so if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, Gretchen Rubin of the Happier books, she writes books about happiness. She created this assessment where you find out what kinds of expectations tend to drive you the most. And then it can be helpful to then figure out how to get the things done in your life that you want to. And so I'm an upholder, and I'm hearing in you, Devona, like, I think it doesn't work this way, but I'm hearing a little bit of upholder and a little bit of rebel.
Mm-hmm. I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it is really helpful for me to be accountable to other people.
Okay.
Too.
Yeah.
With my my business group, having someone to check in with, which I do every Monday, about just what our goals are for the week. So I do like that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So if people want to check out that assessment, I'll make sure that I put it on the show notes. And okay, so one more question for you. What if you were going to time travel to the beginning of your private practice? What would you tell the Devona of that time?
Well, it's funny because I think just given what we've said, I'm not sure I would listen to any advice I would go back and tell myself. I think I would say to try and enjoy the process and celebrate like all along the way. Don't wait for accomplishing the really big goals to feel a sense of success and achievement, and to celebrate that it, have some breathing room there, and feel like the small successes, because this whole process has been just a bunch of incremental steps. And it's what we can do for our business is never ending, really. So I think that's what I would say. Like, just make sure to take in, the successes you are having, and acknowledge the small steps, and enjoy more.
Oh, I love that. And then that becomes good advice over and over again, because sometimes we keep moving the finish line. And so, so we can.
That's why I'm saying this. Yeah. Right. I'll get there when I finish this to-do list 6 months from now. And, if you're growing, you're just going to keep adding to that list. So like, when is it that you're going to let yourself feel successful?
So when is the very best place for therapists to find you and throw compliments at you?
Well, that's nice. Probably my website, which is embodiedtherapy.com. And I have a form that sends an email to me. People can email me, and my phone number's there. People are welcome to call.
Awesome.
All of those, yeah.
Thank you, Devona. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you, as always.
Thank you so much. It's been great.
Thanks for listening. If you felt supported by this conversation, please tell your therapist best friends about it. That's how we can help more therapists like you. I'll see you next week. Hey, you're early like me.
Yes, I'm always early.
You're always early, me too.